Hey guys, in this video we are going to look into the getter and setter. So in previous videos we have seen like how we can use get own property descriptors and how we can define properties of an object. So if you have watched my previous video you might have seen like apart from the value for a field in an object, there are some other configurations as well, like configurable, enumerable, and writable. So in case of getter and setter, there will be nothing such something like writable. There are other properties like configurable and enumerable, but there's no such thing called, I mean, uh, you can say like writable. Since we can use set for writing things, that's why writable is not there. Let's take an example of it. For example, I'm just going to create a bank account object, and I'm going to define one properties here. I'm going to define some properties like, let's say, define properties. The reason when I'm using the define properties, I just want to write multiple properties here. So I will create some variable here, account number. So it needs an object. First one is the value that I'm going to give some random number, and okay, that's fine. I'm just keeping it none by default. Everything will be false here, so we cannot change it. And let's define something else, balance, and here I will just going to define value, and in the value I can just give 1000 by initial balance of a bank account. Next thing what we can do here is like, although like if we don't define any other properties, by default writable, configurable, every other steps will be false. Let's check it out. So as you notice, like we have for the balance, there's a writable false. Since we have not defined these properties, so by default these are false. So in case we'll need it to write, so it will not work. So in that case, I'm just going to create the variable again so that I can make it writable this time. And I'll just go and add one more property here that is called writable true. I'll keep the configurable false since I just don't want to make it, I mean, change anyone to change or delete this property. So I'm just going to keep the configurable false and writable true here by default. Let's do one thing, create one getter. So getter, I mean, the get is a special type of function. Here what we do is like we write a function, but it acts like a property. So when you will access it, you don't need parenthesis to call. You can just use bank account dot balance, and you'll get the value what we are returning it from here. So for example, like this dot underscore balance. So we'll get the balance, and we are not using calling it like a method. It's just like another property. In case of setter, let's do one setter here, and we'll create one setter here and see like how it works. So in setter, you definitely will think like we need something to set. So although like it's a kind of method, but what we can do here is like we can just use bank account dot balance equal to something, and that on the right side of the equal to will be passed here, and it will be passed in this method, and whatever we are doing it will be executed here. So just I'll just show you in some time. Just understand like setter is a kind of method. There we can set something. We can whatever we are passing using the equal to will be passed here. And let's say if I just want to check here like amount is greater than 0, then what we will do is like we'll return, or just not returning, we just need to set it here. So this dot underscore balance equal to amount, and else what we can do is like console dot log, what we can do invalid amount. Okay, so this is enough for now since and also these are getter and setter, so that's why we are defining this way. But since we are using the defined properties, it's not a general object. So if you recall, like in defined properties, what we do is like every property will have an object. It's not a general object. If we directly define it, getter and setter inside this object, we can define this way. But since we are writing the properties, so every property like account number will have an object. So it's a wrong way. So to fix this, what we can do is like we can create one property and we can move this here. Similarly, we can move it. Okay, I've done one more mistake here. So getter itself a function. We don't need a method name here. You can just call it like this. Now it's correct. Now the valence will have four properties. Since it is a getter and setter, since we have defined the getter and setter, it will not have writable. Apart from this, it will have configurable and enumerable. Let's make this enumerable false. Although by default it will be false since we are not defining it. Okay, so wherever we are not writing the enumerable false, it will be by default false. Now what we can do is like we can enter and see like if it works. Looks like our properties are defined and we have getter and setter working, I guess. So as you see, like it is a get, we have a get balance and we have a set balance. Although we find it in different way, like if I expand it again, you can see like we have defined one property get, one property that is get, and on balance we have defined one get property and one set property and one enumerable false. Let's do one thing. Let's write check property descriptors of it, and so that it will become a little bit more clear. All right. So these are the normal two properties, and here we made the writable true. That's why its writable is true here. And if I open the balance, you won't see the writable property here. Since in case of the getter and setter, there's no need of the writable, so JavaScript removes it. And configurable is false by default. Enumerable was also false. And although we have set this false, even if we would have not set this, this would have been false itself by default. And we have the getter method and the setter method which was defined above. Let's try it out and see like how it works. If I write balance, you will notice like we are getting it balanced, although we are not accessing the actual balance here. Okay, further what we can do, let's try to add more properties here. Okay, since we have not made configurable, so that will not allow us to change the configuration. So I'm just going to define everything from scratch quickly. That's why I made the var variable, and I'm keeping it the same data which we just wrote. And what I am just going to add here is the normal method. So let's say deposit, and this will be a kind of method, but its value will not be a just value. It will be a function. I just want it to be called, so I'm just making the value as function. And what I'm doing here is, let's say if I pass some data in deposit, and if I use, I have to check like whether the data is above zero, and if the amount is zero, what I can do is like I can just increase the balance. So I will just use plus equal to amount. In case if it is less than 0 or something like that, then or 0, in that case what we can do is like we can just log invalid amount. Okay, now let's try it out. Or yeah, let's try it out. So we have one more method, deposit here. What we can do here is like we can try to deposit bank account balance. Here we'll add some balance, so we'll use the deposit method and we'll use 100. And now we'll check like whether it worked or not. So I'm just going to check the balance again. So now you see the balance is 1100, means it is being increased automatically, and whenever we deposit something. One more thing is like if we check the property descriptors again, let's check the property descriptors and you will notice, let me just open this. And you will notice like since all the enumerables are false, we have not defined explicitly the enumerable true. So in everywhere like you can see enumerable is false. The reason behind I kept the enumerable false because I just don't want anyone to iterate this and access any of the properties. So let's try it out and see like whether these are available or not. Let key in bank account, and what I can do is I can just console log key and you will notice like there's nothing in here. So this is the one way. What I initially told you is like when we define the getter and setter on any object, you can also do that directly writing the bank account get and the method name. Also you can use the define properties here, just like since the reason behind using define properties is like we can define extra things like enumerable and all other steps. If you don't need to define extra steps, you can just directly define things on the object itself. That will also work. And there are some other things like keeping these variables private. So that's a topic like of separate discussion we can see in the different videos. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day.